Well, howdy everybody, and welcome to the show into the bluegrass state of Kentucky, where today we're at Neal Plantation Whitetails.
The whitetail deer is America's favorite big game animal, and whitetail deer farming is the fastest growing segment in the American agriculture industry. Our program's mission is to dive into the world of deer farming and discover why tens of thousands of Americans compete to create the biggest bucks in the world. And by the biggest bucks, we don't just mean the size of the antlers. The financial investment opportunities produced even on small parcels of rural land will blow you away. Join me as we discover how whitetail genetics, deer auctions, animal husbandry, and so much more drive the deer farming industry. My name is Keith Warren, and this is Deer and Wildlife Stories.
So on today's show, we're in the bluegrass state of Kentucky, and we're going to be visiting the folks over at Neal Plantation Whitetails. The cool thing about this place, the Neals have not been farming deer for very long, but they have got an impressive operation.
Hi, my name is Josh Neal with Neal Plantation Whitetails here in Western Kentucky. My wife and I, we own Neal Plantation Whitetails, where we raise whitetail deer, piebald whitetail deer, fallow deer, elk, and many other species.
You know, one of the things I like to do when I size people up, so to speak, as far as deer farmers, I look at them and think, how do they like the lifestyle? I mean, because deer farming to me, yeah, it's a business, but it's also a lifestyle. So I size up the Neals and I look at the family and I'm going, wonder how they like this lifestyle.
So at Neal Plantation Whitetails, we have approximately 135 whitetails and roughly 85 fallow deer, all on a 7.5 acre facility.
All right, so when you started back, what, in 2016?
2015.
15, okay, so you really haven't been farming that long.
Right.
I take a look at this pen right here and I'm going, okay, this pen couldn't be any more than about 1/4 acre in size.
That's it, exactly what it is.
Okay, so this is kind of in the middle of the farm.
Yeah, and this was our first pen we ever built.
Really?
Yes, sir.
So this was the original pen?
Yep.
Okay, and so you've got, who are these deer in here now?
Yeah, so we've got 3 deer in here right now. This is kind of our showcase pen. We can pull deer in and out, being centrally located in the middle of the farm. But we've got Credit, which is our 2-year-old out of American Express. He is our white buck. He's a phenomenal white buck. We're super excited about him. Also to show the potential of American Express with his offspring. As you know, it's hard to put antlers on a white deer.
Oh yeah.
And that is something we strive for, and we're really excited about his look. So we bred him for the first time this year, covered 6 does, and we got 12 white fawns out of him.
Really?
Yep, 100% white fawns.
Okay, and who's this other buck in here?
So this other buck, we call him Bam. He was a really unique yearling, really non-typical, had points going everywhere. And we thought, man, he could really turn into something cool at 2. Well, at 2, he cleaned up and had a really nice wide open frame, as you see. I think he's gonna hit 190, 200 inches this year.
So did you breed him last year?
We did, we let him cover our AI.
So how many deer you got in this pen?
So we've got 32 deer in this pen.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Wow. And there's very little ground cover in here.
Right.
But almost all of them are does.
Yep, I mean, that's what we've got here. We've got does and a few select breeder bucks.
Okay, so we're going to show you that buck there in a second. Take a look at that buck. Okay, that is a heck of a deer right there. What is his name?
That is American Express.
Okay, so, and that, how old is he?
He's 4 years old.
That is a perfect deer. When you take a look at that frame, that's what people are looking for right there. Tell everybody about what he has done for you.
So he has been a blessing to us. As a yearling, he was a 176-inch clean 7x7 yearling. And I said, I think I want to breed with that deer. And I'm glad we did, because over the last 3 breeding seasons, he's given us 86% buck fawn rate.
Really?
Yes, sir.
And what, does he throw good?
He throws phenomenal. He throws his clean frame. The desirable deer, a clean frame, open tines, single brow tines, just what we love and what the market is looking for.
Okay, so one thing that Josh did differently than a lot of deer breeders do, you heard him say he bred him as a yearling. Most people will not do that. Okay, most people want to wait until they're 2, and just see if they look good at 2, then they'll start breeding them. But because you started at 1, now you've got all those offspring out of him, and you can prove the 86% male offspring, and think that's pretty good, especially when he throws not just the male offspring, but the look that he's throwing.
Yep, that's right. And we, as deer farmers, we don't do everything right. One thing that I messed up on is F5. We didn't breed him as a yearling, and I'm kicking myself in the butt for it.
Yeah, and the reason why is because the deer prove themselves out. The faster that you can take a buck and get bucks out of him on the ground, as long as those bucks follow their dad and are real big, the more valuable he is, because you're proving the deer out genetically. And so that's good. I mean, American Express, I mean, clearly he's gotten the job done. Now, who's that other buck in here with him?
So that other buck, and really any other buck that you're going to see in here, is a yearling.
Okay.
We do have a few yearlings left over from fawning season this past year, and he is an American Express yearling. You see the frame that he's got. He's not a giant deer by any means, but he's
as
desirable.
a yearling, that's nice. Okay, Bill, let me interrupt. I want to point out, when you take a look at some of these deer, look at the amount of piebald, the amount of white in some of these deer. I mean, that one, the legs on that deer right there. I mean, it's beautiful. When you start taking a look at it, you really have a lot more piebald in your herd than any other place I've ever been to.
We do. We've been blessed with our does being able to throw those offsprings with color, and we love the piebalds. It's just a beautiful thing to look at.
All right, so I know you've got fawns to feed, and while you're doing that, I'm going to get Jessica, and we're going to go take a look at F5 Supercell.
You're going to like what you see.
Yep.
Deer and Wildlife Stories is brought to you by MVP Whitetails, Dr. Ray Favero's Whitetail Genetics, UVC Power Sports Tractors and Outdoors, and Vanderdrift Toyota in Arlington, Texas. Now it's time for viewer feedback.
All right, this one is comes to me off of Facebook Messenger from a guy by the name of Scott. Says, I grew up deer hunting and have fallen in love with deer farming and have plans to start one when I retire. What do you think the best state is to start a new deer farm, and why? By the way, I love binge watching Deer and Wildlife Stories on the Deer Farming channel. Keep up the good work. Scott, I think that first off, thanks for watching the Deer Farming channel. Appreciate that. And for your interest in deer farming, the best state, in my opinion, right today to start a deer farm is Kentucky. And the reason why is because the demand cannot, the demand cannot be met. Okay, it's all a matter of economics, supply and demand. Why is there such demand in Kentucky? The demand in Kentucky is because people with preserves, people that have places that wind up putting up a fence and saying, hey, they want deer, they don't have any other place to go get deer except a deer farm. And deer farms cannot provide enough deer right now to the preserves in Kentucky. So out of all the states out there, and I go to all of them with deer farms, Kentucky is the best place to start a deer farm in today's market.
Deer and Wildlife Stories will be right back. Okay, so you've got property and you're wanting to build, maybe a barn dominium, maybe deer facilities, or maybe a badass lodge. Well, you've got to check out Rafter P Construction, the leading design build contractor across the state of Texas. Specializing in quality farm and ranch projects, Rafter P Construction encourages their customers to be very hands-on. Rafter P Construction will be with you every step of the way to make your one-of-a-kind build a reality.
Bottle feeding fawns, you know, it's a lot of work, okay, dedication, and it's a lot of effort. And some deer farmers say, oh, I'm not bottle feeding. Some say, well, I'm going to bottle feed just a few of them. But at Neal Plantation Whitetails, they bottle feed all of them.
I am Jessica Neal. I am Josh's wife. I am the co-owner of Neal Plantation Whitetails and Hidden Hills Whitetails and Game Hunts. One of the reasons that we really got into whitetail was because it was something that we knew we could do as a family. We didn't have any kids whenever we started, but we have our daughter Sila now, and we are bringing her up in the environment to know and love deer. And we also do the preserve with Josh's parents, Boyd and Kelly. So it's a generational thing for us now, and it's just growing more than we could ever have imagined.
Take a look across this pen. There's one buck in here. He is beautiful. Look at him eating marshmallows right there. What is his name?
His name is F5 Supercell.
That's him?
That's him.
Okay, and he's got to be 3 now.
He is 3.
Okay, take a good close look at him at 3 years old. Okay, he has got everything that any deer breeder would want. He's got everything. Okay, now you take a look at that. I want to show you what he looked like at 2 years old. You're going to see how come people all over the country are talking about that. He had the frame. I mean, clearly he was over 400 inches at 2 years old. Y'all had your fingers crossed as he was growing out at age 3. And you take a look, he actually kind of cleaned up.
He did. He looks beautiful.
Okay, and y'all did use him for breeding. So how many How many fawns are on the ground out of him?
Total, he has 150 fawns on the ground this year.
Holy smokes! So the neighbors, when they go back up and forth, do they stop and take a look at him?
Oh, definitely.
I was going to say, where else are you going to drive in Kentucky and be able to see a deer like that? Now, where you got him in that's a kangaroo?
That is a kangaroo.
Now, how does he get along with the deer?
He loves the deer. He was raised with whitetail, so he thinks he's a whitetail.
Holy smokes, look at that. Now you got some real pretty does in here, some pieballs. What's the deal with them?
Well, that is Praline and Mila. They are our babies.
Okay.
We have had Praline since we started. She was one of our first fawns that we got on the farm.
And which one is that one?
She is the one that we're gonna ultrasound later.
Oh, good, good. Okay. And why are we gonna have to ultrasound her?
She has had her milk sac for about 5 weeks now, and she still hasn't dropped any fawns.
Okay.
So we're just a little concerned, gonna take a look and see what's going on.
Okay, and the other one, what's her name?
Mila.
Okay. Are they related?
They are not.
Okay.
Mila is actually our daughter's deer. So we
Okay.
have Mila and Sila.
Okay, I got you. I just think that the white-tailed deer winds up bringing so many people together that we would never know each other if it wasn't for the white-tailed deer. Think about that. And then you take a look at a deer like F5 supercell. I mean, he is a stud. He's awesome. And with 150 offspring on the ground, they're not just on the ground here. They're on the ground at deer farms all over the place, and not just Kentucky. People are using semen out of that buck all over the country, and it's the connection that they have with white-tailed deer and through F5 supercell that brings these people together.
Deer and Wildlife Stories is brought to you by Vara Ranch, LE Fence, Record Rack Deer and Elk Feeds, Massey Ferguson Tractors at UVC Power Sports, and by New Dart. Deer and Wildlife Stories will be right back. Closed captioning is brought to you by Advanced Deer Genetics.
Take a look at these fallow deer. I mean, when did you start running into fallow deer like this?
Well, that's a great question. So we've been doing whitetail since 2015, and in 2019, just a couple of years ago, we were able to get into the fallow side of the cervid industry, and we have absolutely loved it. These things are incredible.
Well, the cool thing about it is if you're watching the show and you've watched for any length of time at all, you've known that more and more people are starting to get into the fallow industry.
That's right.
And the reason why is because there's a lot of money to be made on the fallow side. And in Kentucky, you're the daddy when it comes to fallow deer.
Absolutely. So we own what I believe to be about 85 or 90% of the fallow herd in the state of Kentucky.
Tell everybody the difference between raising fallow deer and raising white-tailed deer.
Yeah, so raising white-tailed deer, as we've been doing for a few years, once we got into fallow deer, we went, oh my gosh, these are so easy to raise.
Why didn't I start with fallow deer?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're very low maintenance. They're much less susceptible to some of the common illnesses and diseases with white-tailed deer. They take care of themselves, and we let them do that.
The things that I'm noticing about your fallow deer is that yours are more skittish.
Yeah, and we give them kind of an open range. They've got a 3-acre pen that the majority of them stay in, and we've separated that into some breeding pens, but they get their own range. They're a little bit more secluded than the whitetails, and we do that for a reason. We like that temperament in our fallow deer. We very seldom lay our hands on them unless they need to be worked. Like I said, they manage themselves, and we give them that space to do so. The bucks that you see right there, the real nice one there, the spotted fallow, he's 3 years old.
Okay.
As well as some of the other ones that are starting to get those palms on the top of their antlers. Those are all 3 years old. The spikes, we have a few spikes in here. Obviously, they're first year deer.
Right there.
A couple does in here. So maturity on our fallow herd, 3 years old. That's when we're starting to see that desirable look that we're wanting in our fallow deer.
Okay, so how is the market for fallow deer here in Kentucky?
The market in Kentucky is incredible. It is absolutely incredible. There's a lot of demand, and there's very little to be had. So us being able to maintain a large portion of the fallow in Kentucky, we're doing our best to initiate the growth in the state of Kentucky, and that's what we want to see. We want to see these things flourish in the state of Kentucky.
And the thing about it is, I think the cost of entry as far as getting in the market with fallow deer is actually less expensive than white-tailed deer, and the yield is there. And so if somebody wants more information on not just the whitetail here, but also the fallow, give them a phone number.
Yeah, so our phone number is 270-339-9788. Josh Neal and Jessica Neal at Neal Plantation Whitetails here in Seabury, Kentucky.
There are so many people that want big deer in Kentucky and so few deer breeders that the opportunity is wide open. It's for that reason I take a look at Josh. And Josh has helped so many people. Even Josh is a young man himself. He's helped other young people get started in the deer farming business, and they're doing well. And the reason why is because the market is robust right here in Kentucky.
My name is Sean Longus, my wife Lauren Longus. We live in Hancock County, Kentucky, and we own Russian River Whitetails. This is my second oldest daughter, Layla. Tell them how old you are.
I'm 9.
9 years old. I've met quite a few people deer farming. When we first started off with our first KALA event, it's kind of a great venue to reach out to other farmers, get people involved. Since I've been deer farming, I've met quite a few families that'll probably end up being lifetime friends. They've really helped me out a long ways. If it weren't for Josh and Jessica, I probably wouldn't be deer farming. They've helped us out tremendously.
I'm Diana Gaines. I'm from Unbridled Whitetails, and this is our 3rd year doing deer farming. So I heard there's about 107 deer farms in Kentucky. We've met a lot of great friends doing this so far.
I'm Cameron Ray of Blue Creek Whitetails. We're located in Belton, Kentucky. I think the future of Kentucky deer farming is it's going up big. I'm not gonna say as big as other states yet, but I definitely feel like it's growing. We have new farms popping up, so that's always good for business. The more business the preserves do, the more it keeps farms like me in business. I definitely think that the deer business in Kentucky, the only way to go is up.
So after the break, we're going to show you something that medically I've really never seen it done before on a deer. And then Josh is going to take care of a little elk.
Deer and Wildlife Stories is brought to you by Maloof Whitetails, the North American Deer Registry, New Dart, and Whitetails of Louisiana. Now some great information on fencing from our friends at LE Fence.
Morning guys, this is Ron with LE Fence. We're out here hanging some gates today in between these 2 pens that we just finished up yesterday. First we went ahead and kind of pre-assembled our hinges on the gates, got them where they typically are going to go, top, middle, bottom. We then held the gate next to the post, marked some holes on the pipe so we knew where to drill our pilot holes to put the hinges through the actual pipe. And what we did from there is we went ahead and put one hinge upside down, coming down on the top, and then we went ahead and put the bolts on the other 2 hinges on the gate. So then when we're ready to hang this gate, we can just slide the 2 bottom hinges straight into the pilot holes that we made. And then the top hinge that's upside down, we just scoot the female end of that hinge up into the actual bolt. So now all they're doing is they're tightening up the bolts. They're gonna be able to level the gate here in a few minutes after we get this all tightened up. That's about it, guys. Thanks.
Deer and Wildlife Stories will be right back.
So Praline is a 6-year-old doe here at Neal Plantation Whitetails. She's given us twins for the past 5 years. And this year, in our eyes, we feel like she's a little bit behind on her pregnancy. So what we decided to do as precautionary is to invite a vet out and do a sonogram or ultrasound to check on Praline and her babies.
I am Dr. Candace Wardrip, and I am a mobile veterinarian out of Hardinsburg, Kentucky. I work on about 90% livestock and do in-home and on-farm care and small animal wellness, but mainly predominantly livestock. So with deer in general, they're actually a very stressed species, so we actually take the most precautions possible. So as we access Praline today, we're going to actually be utilizing a dart tranquilization, so we don't have to get close to her. The sedatives actually will calm her down and not make her know anything that's going on in the process. So we discovered that Praline is indeed pregnant. She is taking her time, which all good things come in time. So we don't want to rush anything, but we have got some healthy heartbeats. We have at least 3. We also checked on gut motility. So gut motility of the fluids going into their body also tell us that this gut's functioning, these fawns are alive. So everything looks really good. Everything looks really healthy. Praline's in excellent body condition to handle these fawns. So the process is going along as it should, and now we just have to be patient and wait.
So on our ranch here at Hidden Hills Whitetails and Game, it's great to keep a good inventory of what we have here on our ranch. One of the things that we do to maintain inventory on our elk herd here at the ranch is by tagging each calf shortly after it's born. All right, so we have just darted a 2021 elk calf. The reason we do this is we have to keep a very good inventory of our animals at our breeding facility and at our ranch. And what we're going to do today is we're going to sex the elk calf, whether it's a male or a female. We're going to tag it with an RFID, which is a radio frequency identification tag, as well as a numbered tag, so we can keep good inventory on this one. We'll do a little check to make sure the fawn looks good, make sure it's healthy, make sure it's nursing well, and get it back on its feet and back in the herd. So whitetail breeding is a year-round job. We've got breeding season, we've got antler growing season, we've got fawning season, and in the off season, well, there is no off season, but we do urine collection. In the past 3 years, we built a company called Urine Luck Deer Sense, where we collect the freshest urine from peak estrus to dominant buck, young buck, and even regular doe urine. And it has done really well for us. If you'd like more information about Neal Plantation Whitetails, you can call us at 270-339-9788. You can also reach our social media pages at Neal Plantation Whitetails. We would love to show you around if you're interested in anything from whitetails to fallow and anything in between.
One of the best things about my job is getting to go to new deer farms and meeting new friends. And the Neals, they're new friends. They're people that they've been a friend for a long time. I just never knew them. And so I think that's the cool thing about deer farming. When you get out there and you start meeting these deer farmers, they're friends of yours you didn't even know you had. And so coming up here to Kentucky is always a joy for me. I mean, it's beautiful country, beautiful people, and now the Neals are some beautiful friends, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity, not just to showcase their farm and their deer, but to showcase them.